whenever the skeptics, challenge us, well, why is it you don't have any whistleblowers regarding the topic of UFOs, or more specifically Roswell? Well, we've had whistleblowers, since 1947. The problem is nobody listens.
When you have objects described in formerly classified government memos as being disc-shaped, as invading sensitive airspace, and when you can see from the tone of the memos that this is a very serious matter, then clearly there's something important happening.
There are 2 photographs, 2 slides, where you can see the bodies.
This issue had been proven 50 years ago. This is a political problem. It's a political policy. You can't solve it with science. You have to solve it with political engagement.
We have a significant proof for the Roswell event as an extraterrestrial event.
What the world is going to do with it is up to the world. If humanity really understands the importance of this, that this phenomenon is real, then the mission has been accomplished.
There's no other conclusion for me to draw than the conclusion that I must be going in the right direction. I must be getting close to something that they don't like.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network. Any opinions or comments made by any guest are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect any of the presenters or network's opinions.
It all began with an incident which occurred in 1947. On the afternoon of June 24th of that year, Kenneth Arnold made the first report on flying saucers. On this day, Arnold took off from Chehalis, Washington, and flew toward the Rainier Plateau at an elevation between 9,000 and 10,000 feet. Over Mineral, Washington, he observed a formation of very bright objects to the north. He radioed ahead that they appeared to be close to the mountaintops and traveling at tremendous speed. Arnold counted 9 objects in echelon formation. He observed that they had no tails and described them as saucer-shaped objects.
Hello everyone, this is Johnny Cobb, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the UK's biggest paranormal radio network. And this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young. We sincerely hope you enjoy this show.
Hello and welcome to another show. Thank you for joining me once again. Thank you for the introduction, Johnny. That's Johnny Cobb. At the end of the show, I'll be playing a tune called Roswell by Johnny Cobb and Jerry McCoy. Reason I'm playing that is because this show is going to be all about Roswell and a film called Cosmic Whistleblowers by today's guest, Mr. Simon Sharman. But just before that, thank you for all the comments and messages that you send in. If you would like to contact me anytime, my email address is davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. That's davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. Okay, on to today's guest. It's filmmaker Simon Sharman, who made a film called Cosmic Whistleblowers. It's available on Amazon Prime, but I understand it's on a few other places as well. You can download it. In the documentary film, Simon Sharman goes in search of truth to the Roswell UFO mystery of 1947, with access to new witnesses. But it's the UFO experts who become the focus when controversial new evidence is unearthed and deception becomes the name of the game. In the trailer, it says, Sharman presents damning evidence of government cover-ups. So, with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Simon Sharman. Hello, Simon. Welcome to the show.
Hi, David. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. How are you?
Well, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome to the show. I've been waiting quite a while for this one. As you know, we've been talking on and off for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And I've been sort of trying to get this show off the ground. I know I wanted to get you on here for a year or so at least, and we finally got it together. I've got to tell everyone, we did actually have an attempt to do it last week, but everything went wrong. My computer conked out. I couldn't put a show out last week, but here we are at last, and here we are with Simon Sharman. Now,
well, I'm glad you stuck with it, Dave, so I appreciate you having me on.
No, it's great to have you on. So, as I say, I've really been looking, and I'm not sort of lying, I'm telling the truth about that. Now, you've got a film on Amazon Prime called Cosmic Whistleblowers. So, for anyone out there who may not have heard of it, or may not have seen it, or might not have heard of Simon, and I'm not putting him down in any way, it's just one of those things that sometimes they're tucked away, and you might not get around to seeing them, or hear about them. But Simon made a film called Cosmic Whistleblowers, and we'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later. But I think what I'd like to do first is sort of ask you how you came to make this film and what your experiences were before. You know, your own personal experiences.
Yeah,
in
sure.
whichever order you want to do it, you know.
Okay, yeah. Let's see how it comes out. I mean, I've always, I guess the good place to start would be, I've always had an interest in UFOs and the idea of alien life since being a kid. I grew up in the 70s, and there's obviously a whole bunch of sci-fi coming through back then. Obviously Star Wars hit probably the perfect time for me when I was about 8 years old. But actually then more importantly for me after that, Close Encounters hit, which completely and utterly blew my mind way back when. So I've always had an interest, and then I had that was in the general idea and of alien life and whatnot. And then it was in the the late 80s. I heard Timothy Good on the radio, and obviously we all know who Tim Good is. Now, back then, people didn't really, unless you knew about his book, Above Top Secret, which had only just come out then, by the way. And he was on Radio 2, actually, funnily enough. The Nicky Campbell show, I'll never forget it. Because he came on and he was talking about stuff that just sounded like it was out of a film. Now, you've got to realise, David, you'll know yourself, but back then, in the 80s, people weren't really talking about this stuff. No internet, no YouTube. So it absolutely blew my mind, and I just couldn't get my head around some of the things he was saying. Some of the stuff was really out there. So it kind of reignited my interest, probably, I'd say then when I was about, probably late teenager, something like that. So yeah, it's always been around me for a long time.
Yeah, because you're right. I mean, because all we had then was we'd buy a book, and all we had to talk about it was ourselves in our own heads, or maybe one or two friends. You didn't sort of have, like you say, nothing like the internet to sort of with thousands of people that you can be interacting with. That's right. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think it's hard. It's probably difficult for younger people to suss this out or really get a feel for how completely different it was, because like you say, after when I heard Tim Good on the radio, I went straight to my library that summer because I was off to university that year. I'd taken a couple of years out, and I went to dig out all the UFO books I could get in the library, because that's the only way you could do research then. And I remember there was like maybe 4 or 5 books, and that was it, literally. So by the end of July, I'd already read all of them like twice. And I was like, and obviously I was just left hungry for more. So, like you say, it was a different world back then.
Yeah, you could get like the American PAUK books. There's quite a few of the American flying saucer books, weren't there, back then?
Yeah, there may have been one in the library as well. I'm actually trying to remember I can't for the life of me remember what those books were. They were pretty pedestrian, probably some spin-off from Arthur C. Clarke stuff, or there were definitely a couple of books that talked about cases, but I'd be lying if I could say if I said I could remember.
Well, there's things like Chariots of the Gods, Eric von Daniken.
Yeah.
That's what really kicked me off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, such a huge book. I'm not sure when that came to me. Probably the 90s, I think, when I got around to reading that one. Maybe the early mid 90s. But yeah, I mean, obviously the von Daniken Chariots book got to be up there for a lot of people, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's not sort of entirely accurate in some of the concepts, it still makes you think very much about life elsewhere and what our ancient civilizations were like.
Yeah.
It certainly makes you think. And there's a lot of puzzles out there still.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely, endless. And I think, the same as you, really. I mean, I was always interested in like origin kind of stories of all this stuff. But I think where my focus took me, and I don't know why, if this is because I'm a child of the 70s or whatever, but I was always drawn more towards the nuts and bolts stories, because I really felt there was, when you can really kind of get a handle on a real aspect of a case or evidence, witnesses, I was always more drawn to that, because obviously it just felt more real. And once you get over the notion that the possibility is a reality, and that maybe they have been flying around, then all you really care about is all I cared about was evidence. So I was always drawn, I think, to the more like the more up to date stuff, and the those cases with pictures and video and all that stuff.
Yeah. Because really, your film kind of comes out of the Roswell incident, doesn't it? Really.
Well, yeah.
That's how it materialised. I guess. So, what are your? No, actually, no. I'll ask you that a bit later in the interview, okay, about what your actual thoughts on the Roswell are. But have you actually seen any UFOs of your own?
I've seen. I hadn't seen anything. Well, this is a weird one. So for years, let me just get this right. For years, I was under the impression that I hadn't seen anything. And then, I don't know when I remembered this, but at some point when I was grown up, I remembered seeing, I guess it was a falling star, actually, a meteorite. It must have been when I was about 7 or 8. With my nan. We're out walking the dog late at night. She had these dogs, and we used to take them for a walk. And I'll never forget it. It came down behind the bandstand in the park near to where we used to live. And it was so bright, and it was so big, and it just came straight down in a vertical line. And I can remember it even now. Well, that's my recall of it. I mean, unless my recall's slightly off, but it was just a big blob of white light came down. Now, I'm guessing that was a meteorite, but that kind of lodged into my head. Well, like I said, I was young. But in terms of seeing actual UFOs, I've seen 2, I would argue. One was in 1990, I want to say 95, and it was just north of Manchester. I was, one was then, and then another one was actually in Manchester again, and that was in probably about 4 years ago. And that was probably the most interesting sighting. But, other than that, and I can't say what either was. I mean, I can go into details and tell you about them if you like, but,
what colour they were or anything like that?
Yeah, so, okay, let's do this in reverse then. So, the most recent one was, I was just driving out of Manchester to the north, out of the city, and as I was driving up the main road, and you got to imagine this is winter, maybe October, November. I'd have to check the dates. It's kind of early evening, so it was dark, right? It was like dark sky, but it was busy, busy traffic, and directly ahead of me, and I'd say quite low down, was a really, really bright, round-shaped, kind of orb-shaped light, self-luminous, so it wasn't being reflected because it wasn't that high. My guess was it was kind of the height of a chopper. Now, before you say like, oh, could it have been a chopper or anything like that? I mean, obviously being obsessed with this subject this was after the film, by the way, so you can imagine. Obviously, I'm pretty astute on how I do this. But anyway, I got out of the car, looked up. Incredibly, couldn't believe nobody else seemed to be taking any notice. I mean, it's just. I mean, other people must have seen it. Well, they did actually. I'll come to that in a moment. But it's incredible how these things can happen and people just seem to just get on with their lives. So this thing was kind of a big, bright, white light, and it was heading south. So it was coming from the north in a straight line towards us, towards the city, basically. And I thought, first of all, it was like a chopper with a bright beam on, but I kind of instinctively knew it wasn't. So I got out of the car and looked, and then it changed vector. It went from coming to the south, and then it moved more to the west in what I would say was it kind of made some kind of turn. Now I've got to say this, it wasn't traveling super fast. It was, like I say, I thought it was a chopper, but it changed direction. But as it changed direction, I then realized, of course, it wasn't a chopper because the light source was the same power from whatever angle you saw it. Right. So, it was, like I said, it was, self-illuminated, if that's the right way of putting it, and it was really bright, and it was bright all the way around it, right. And there was no noise.
That's what I was going to say. You'd hear a chopper anyway, wouldn't you? Yeah,
there's no noise, no chopper. Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, it was that low, you'd have heard it. The chopper could have been a lot higher, and you'd have still heard it. There was no noise on this. And I was saying I'd say it was travelling at, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, it's not stuff's in the air, but. Yeah, I don't know, a couple of hundred knots or something. I mean, it wasn't like flying across the sky. I was watching it for like at least 5 minutes. Yeah. So that was the first one. But it's basically a big ball of light, right? It doesn't say a lot, but it was. I mean, it wasn't anything. It wasn't a chopper. It wasn't a lantern. When I say bright, I mean it was like. It was self-lit. Yeah. It was.
Obviously, it wasn't an aeroplane because it would have been flashing, wouldn't it? The red and white lights. Is it red and white lights? I think they do.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And this was just one big ball of light. And I would also say the size of it was the light part, which is the only thing you could see, was probably I don't know. I want to say the size of the moon, maybe on an average night. I mean, it was big. It wasn't small. Maybe slightly smaller than the moon, but it was a big disc. Wow. It wasn't like a pinprick. So yeah, that was one. And weirdly, this is now just to know that this happened, to prove the only corroboration I've got is, weirdly enough, my partner was driving fairly north. She was driving way north of me, about 20 miles north of me at the time, and her son was in the back of the car, and he was pointing out the back of the car. He was about 10 at the time, maybe a bit older. Basically asking her to look because he could also see this light going towards Manchester. So weirdly, they actually saw it as well. So it definitely wasn't just me. Anyway, that was quite a long explanation. But the second one I saw was actually probably more interesting. The first one, actually, historically in the 90s. I was driving back again from Manchester late at night, out about 16 miles north of the city, in a place called Rossendale. And as you come down the motorway, just before you hit Rawtenstall, this particular town, there's like a valley. And I think it was about 12:30, 1 in the morning. I remember it was a Sunday night, because I remember I had work the next day. And there was as I looked across the valley, I saw this red light, and I just looked at it as you would. And the only way I could describe this was it was like a red disc, but not a flat disc. It had like, it had form to it, so it was like a disc, but it had height to it, right? Like a thick coin, as it were. And at first I thought, obviously, obviously, no, this is like in 94.
It's all right, I'll bleep that out.
So, yeah, okay.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, and I thought, this is like 94, 95, so I'd already got an interest in the subject. So immediately I'm like, what the hell's this? Wound the window down of the car, looked out. I thought, was it a chopper or something with a strange light? Again, David, no sound whatsoever. And it was going very, very slow across the valley and very low. I mean, this was like a really low object. It's a long time ago now when I tried to recall how low, but it's definitely lower than the average chopper. And then it just basically went in a straight line across, silent, and it was like a disc of light. No flashing, no orb, anything like that. And I chased it. I thought, right, I followed it as far as I could go. Probably travelled about maybe 10 miles or so before, like, the roads took me in a way that I couldn't keep up with it, Yeah. So yeah, that was the other one, but I'll never know what it was. Right, very low, red disc.
So that's very interesting. I mean, when you say red, do you mean red? Because I saw one back in 1960. I think it was 66 or 67. I can't remember which. I have trouble remember if it was 66 or. I think it might have been early 67. But the one I saw was like an orange oval object. And it was, but it was an orange, definite orange, and it was different shades of orange. So when you say red, do you think, was it actually red?
Yeah, I mean red. I can actually picture the red.
Yeah.
That's why initially I was thinking like, choppers just don't have this kind of red lights, to be fair. Well, it was kind of like, like I'd say a deep red, not a bright red, not a flashing red, not a like a torchy red, like a deep red. And again, the only way I could describe, there was no glow to it. I could see the shape of this thing. It was like round. I could see, It wasn't just the light. I could see a shape. So I actually, in my head at the time, I actually wondered if it's funny actually when you talk about it, how things come back to you. I've not thought about this for a very long time. Now I think about it now, I remember thinking, oh wow, that's a really big light that's either is it on the bottom of the chopper or what it was? Obviously I didn't know at the time, I was trying to figure it out. But I could tell that the light source was coming from within the object. So it wasn't like a beam of light, right? It was like this whole disc part of it was lit up. Now, I don't know if that was all of it, if that was part of it. I don't know, because it was like 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And when I think about the Belgian triangles, I mean, they had, I never saw a triangle, but they did, as I'm sure you know, they had the points of light, which I didn't see, but they had the red disc in the middle.
That's right.
And that wasn't too far off that period, like the early 90s. It was around that time.
Yeah. I mean, the one I saw, it was very much like yours, really. It was just one on its own. But I've actually seen pictures of where they've got like 6 of them all together.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It is.
You might have seen something. I don't know about you, but I don't think about it a lot, the sightings, but yeah, I mean, I've no idea what that was. No, it could have been anything, of course, but...
Well, the other thing I found interesting is what you said about when you were at 7 or 8, because I had a similar experience when I was about 7 or 8, maybe 9, but when I lived in London, I was actually watching a star move and stop and move and stop. Now, now I'm a bit older than you. This was the late 50s.
Right.
So there was nothing much flying around then. And of course, then being a kid, I just thought it was, I just thought it was a star moving, It was only when I got to like the teenage years, I thought, what the hell was that,
Yeah.
Because I can't, we know stars don't move and stop and move and stop, so it's just one of those things that was probably my first UFO that I saw.
Wow. Amazing. I've got friends who've seen, remember school friends, at least 2 different ones describing the same thing, seeing the same thing as kids in the 70s or so. Stars that kind of, in fact, one of my closest friends, school friends actually, he definitely, and his brother, he had, again, saw exactly the same kind of thing that you saw. Basically what they thought was a star, then it would move and stop, and, it's one of those type of sightings that people have, isn't it? I mean, it's just...
Well, I've seen them since as well, up at Rendlesham. When I lived near Rendlesham Forest, we've been up in the woods late in the early hours of the morning and seeing similar things, stars moving and stopping and moving and stopping. I think it's quite a regular thing up that way.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, why not?
Anyway, so that's your early experiences. So I guess we better get on to your film, Cosmic Whistleblowers. Now, what led you into filming that film? Or if
It's funny. I don't know if you heard that, but as you asked the question, I just took a really deep breath. Not because of you, just because it was like, oh yeah, wow, why did
it's a major part of your life, I know.
Yeah, it really was actually, and I never intended it to be. There is a saying though in I worked in TV and the media for years, and there's a saying, and made documentaries and whatnot. There is a saying in documentaries like, when it's wrong, it's right, and never a truer word could be said for my documentary, because, if I'd known what was going to happen and how it was all going to turn out early on, I probably would never have got involved with it in the way I did.
Yeah. Because at the time, I know things were going on where things were being reported on, and well, I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, I don't mind. I mean, it was really, when I look back, actually, it's quite astonishing to think that I was actually kind of wrapped up, embroiled, obviously from a dispassionate, objective point of view, because I was always on the outside. Obviously being a documentary maker as well, I was always trying to keep my feet firmly on the fence with everything. But it's looking back, the timing of how all that came together, the fact that I was kind of on the inside of all that unraveling from the beginning right through to the end, only because I stuck with it, by the way, for 2 years in between. But yeah, really quite incredible. And I think, for people who haven't seen the film, or even if they have, this isn't like blowing my trumpet on the film, but I think the interesting aspect of it is just the absolutely different insight that I was able to get, just partly by chance and sheer luck and being in the right place at the wrong time.
Yeah,
a lot of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but to see that unravel from the inside was really quite a thing. And yeah, to mention what that was, obviously people who haven't seen it. I mean, if I take a step back, my whole point behind doing it was I'd always wanted to make a documentary about UFOs. That was something I was always going to do. I never knew which one it was going to be, what the first one was going to be, or which way I was going to go. But it was a chance. I actually went to meet with Jesse Marcel Jr., who came on a visit, probably in around, I'm not sure when that was, maybe 2012, 2013, something like that. And anyway, I met with him and I was chatting to him, because obviously I wanted to meet the guy, and was just amazed to meet him and hear what he talked about, saying how he held the fragments of this Roswell crash and his dad brought it home before they took it off to Wright Pat Air Force Base and hid all the debris and stuff. And with him was, or tagging along with him certainly, was Don Schmidt.
Yeah.
And obviously I knew who Don Schmidt was because I kind of knew the players in the main players in this whole scene, as it were. And basically Don approached me. I think his ears pricked up when he heard I was doing some BBC stuff and doing a lot of TV and whatnot. And basically Don said he had some new witnesses that had never been on camera before, and for Roswell, and that's how it started.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to sort of put any words into your mouth, but when you
Go on, do your best.
No. I don't know quite how to say it. When you actually met Don, did you become? I don't know. I got the impression that Don was quite possessive of the actual story of Roswell.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the
thing. I'm
not
putting Don down in any way. He's been on this show actually, but I think people do get kind of possessive of their research and what the books they're writing and everything.
Look, I mean, everybody's got their own ways and means, and I mean, look, considering how that whole, and again, it's difficult if you haven't seen the film, but when you do, for people who do see it, when you see how that all kind of goes down, in terms of essentially, Don setting up these interviews for new witnesses, me waiting a long time to get them, me traveling halfway around the world to do it, some of the witnesses not showing up, Don becoming busy, quote unquote, with other things, getting me on getting me on the dig for evidence that he did these digs at Roswell, these new digs. And then when I get there, actually, I mean, look, I'm a documentary maker. Don was never, he's not a personal friend of mine or anything like that. I mean, we were always kind of affable with each other. But, when it came to the actual, it was a very odd situation for me. When I went to do the interviews, for example, the first interview, the most important one, he actually cancelled on me in the last minute, and that's actually the start of the film.
You were pretty peeved about it as well.
I mean, there was no warning. Nobody called me. I mean, I'd already spent thousands at this point.
Yeah.
Of my own money, by the way, because I wasn't funded. So this was all, a lot of it. Well, it's partly funded. That's incorrect, but a lot of this was my own money. And I mean, it's just not cricket, and it's just not professional. And that was like the first day landing out, and that was actually in Albuquerque.
And as you know, I'm not telling you anything, it's a long drive out there, isn't it?
Oh God! Well, we'd not even got to Roswell at that point. Yeah. We just landed in Albuquerque. Yeah. So yeah, it was another 300 miles or more, or whatever it is from there. And and the thing is, he was actually one of the most important interviews, because he was the one that apparently is a security guard on the base at the time. And he allegedly saw bodies, right? Apparently that's the case. But anyway, he didn't turn up for the interview. I didn't get any warning. And when you've just flown 3,500 miles and spent 9 hours on a plane, it's not the best start. So, I mean, and this is interesting actually, because here's the thing, David, I never intended to be on screen with this film. I've done a lot of TV presenting in the past and whatnot, but my idea with this film was always to make a film without it being presenter-led.
Right.
So I was always just going to do these interviews and get out there, and that was it. But because it started screwing up on that first day, I just said to Charlie, the director of photography, I just said, look, you just stick the camera on. I'm just going to need to figure some stuff out here. And then from there, it unraveled, and I ended up kind of fronting the picture. But so I never actually intended it to go the way it did.
You never meant to be the star.
I definitely never meant to be any star. No.
And then Jaime Maussan turned up on the scene as well.
I mean, this was just so random. I mean, the thing with Don is, and look, like I said, I'm nothing against the man myself. God bless him, and I wish him well. But from a professional working relationship point of view, he wasn't very forthcoming with information. So
that's kind of what I meant would have been about people being possessive with.
Yeah, I mean, I just found the whole thing really odd. On the one hand, you get invited out to do all these interviews and make a picture and film the new dig, and so yeah. And when it came to information in terms of what was going on, there just wasn't much coming out of Don at all. In fact, there wasn't anything. So when Jaime turned up, I mean, we were just setting up for the first day's B-roll, as it were. First day in Roswell, just doing some B-roll. No particular. I don't think there were any interviews that day, if I remember rightly. And I'm just setting up with the camera and whatnot, and just doing bits and bobs. And I turn around, and he's literally stood behind me, and I was like, hang on, what the hell's going on here? So anyway, actually, I mean, Jaime, in fairness to him, I've got to say, I really did get on with Jaime. I spent quite a bit of time talking with him. We got lost in the desert together.
Yeah, see him driving around, going the wrong way.
I mean, we really were lost for quite a long time, actually.
Really?
We edited
it's only a couple of minutes on the film, isn't it? But,
we're lost for like the best part of an hour. Yeah, it was pretty hairy.
And that could be scary. Yeah.
No, it was quite hairy. Yeah, it was quite hairy because we had no I didn't make any of that up. We had no GPS working on the stuff. Jaime's didn't either. We had all the sat kit. We couldn't get any GPS going. We had no idea where we were, and we were miles away from anywhere.
Not the time you want to get a flat tire, is it?
No, it really wasn't. But so yeah, again, I mean, when it comes to the film, I think I certainly didn't over dramatize a lot of the things that happen. In fact, if anything, I probably under dramatized it, which more fool me, because I could have made probably a more ridiculous film had I said it.
Yeah, a really expose.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and coming back to your question about Don and the information and what happened after with the whole slides fiasco, it was never my intention to do that kind of expose film, and secondly, because I'm somebody who he's obviously interested in the subject. I didn't really have any interest in ridiculing the subject because, there's enough of that already.
Yeah.
However, with that said, so much went on that all really I had to do was point the camera and keep it rolling, and really I think the story told itself.
Yeah. I mean, did you get drawn into the slides? I'm going to call it the slides fiasco because that's what it turned out to be.
Oh God!
But I mean, did you believe it at first when you were told about?
Oh no, I never for one moment believed, hand on heart, that there would be slides of dead alien bodies floating around.
I think we ought to explain to people who might not have heard about this. There were some slides that materialised out of an attic, I think it was.
That's right.
Which Jaime Maussan got involved in, and I think he made a lot of money out of it in the end, didn't he?
Well, he tells me that he made no money out of it, and it's hard to say. I'm not. You know what? I don't know if he made any money out of it or not. I know a lot of people said that he did. I know I would say this. He's certainly the kind of man who would happily lose money on something if he thought he was pushing the subject forward, whether he did it rightly or wrongly. Because the one sense I got from Jaime is that he really does care about. And I know he comes in for a bit of flack, Jaime, and I know he's a controversial figure with some of the stuff he's reported on. But the one thing I would say is he's to me, he was someone who was genuinely wanting the answers.
Yeah. Do you feel that maybe he was taken in as well then?
I think he might have been. I think Jaime is one of these people who really wants to believe, he wants the evidence, he wants to have it all. And you can sometimes lose your objectivity when you're so passionate about that, in that way. So, look, like I say, I mean, for me, it was completely obvious. There's no way on earth any slides from any alien are going to be floating around in somebody's attic. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Well, I've got to say, I mean, the tickets weren't cheap. I mean, let's put it like this: the auditorium where the presentation was made, it's a massive auditorium, wasn't it?
Oh God, yeah.
And the tickets weren't cheap, were they, to attend it? So,
no, I can't remember the exact prices, but yeah, I think they went up to about $100 or something.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, when you think about how many, and it was full, wasn't it, to the rafters?
No, it wasn't full.
Oh, wasn't it? It looks it in the film.
No. Yeah, no, it wasn't entirely full. There was a lot of people there, don't get me wrong. There must have been a few thousand there. But it wasn't, it wasn't full by any stretch. And I can't remember the capacity of that particular stadium, but it is massive. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can see there's a lot of people there. I was saying, so all that money must have gone somewhere. So where did it go? I mean, I suppose it must have cost money to hire the stadium or auditorium.
Well, he said, as he says in the film, and I'm trying to remember the number he gave me. I think it's fair to say he probably wouldn't have spent anything less than 100k on setting that up. So, if he did make any money off those slides, he would have had to have made a heck of a lot of money on the streams and stuff. Personally, I don't think he did. That's just my opinion, but sure. I just don't think he did.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not casting any aspersions. I've just sort of wondered that myself.
Oh, sure,
When you see the film, you can't help thinking about it, because we do know that from the alien slides fiasco, as we call it, he went on to do the alien mummy fiasco. Oh my God. Which was not too long after. It was only a matter of months after, wasn't it? That all kicked off. And
I was well out of it by then, so I don't.
And Jaime was at the head of that as well.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely a super controversial figure. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he definitely seems to gets his hands on the most unlikely sources of proof of alien life on the planet, and then kind of I don't know, just kind of get behind them and just make all kinds of claims.
Yeah.
When I don't know. For me, there's better. You can do it you can probably do it in a less passionate manner and still keep your integrity, I think.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting that he turned up. Did he hear that you were there thought you were from the BBC or something?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure because we were just a small crew, just me and Charlie. There's only the two of us on this trip, on the first leg at least. So, yeah, he probably did, but Jaime's, been a journalist for I don't know how many decades and stuff, and he didn't really bat an eyelid. But I've got to say, in terms of when it came to the again, the slides fiasco part, the latter part of the film, when obviously and maybe it's worth tracking back a bit here. So I was basically meant to be filming all of this stuff. That Don had told me about this quietly months before it had gone public. Right. So I knew about it. And he basically, so I was going to include it in the film. But what then happened, I think, and I'm reading between the lines, but my guess is, Don decided to do some kind of different deal with Adam Dew, for some reason figured out that I couldn't fit into that deal and basically just vanished off the face of the planet, right, from my point of view. Yeah. So, which I've got to say pissed me off. I mean, I'll say it, it was inconvenient, it put me out, and it cost me a lot of money.
Well, I think it's quite apparent in the film anyway, you can see.
Yeah, no, it pissed me off. Yeah. And, so, what I'm coming to here wasn't really to talk about that. It was just to say that Jaime, actually, in fairness to him, if it wasn't for Jaime giving me full access to himself, to images of the slides when I got to Mexico, to access all areas when it came to the event itself, Cinco de Mayo and all that stuff. So actually, it was Jaime that really did allow me the opportunity to still get into the end of this story and actually see it through to its conclusion. So like I said, for me, despite his overly passionate, shoutings of really, really ropey evidence, for me, I wouldn't have been able to make a lot of this film without his support.
Yeah, like you say, he's certainly a character. Now, do you feel that Don Schmidt was taken in by these slides, or did he?
I mean, look, if you believe Don's own words, what he comes out with himself, then he was always skeptical that they might be the evidence, but he was always open to the fact that they could be. And then, in fact, in the film, he actually says, get it backstage after the event when I snuck into that green room and I was squeezed in with all those people. he actually says to Jaime, like, what else can they be? What else can they be? Yeah. So,
well, I mean, there's a lot of things they could be.
Yeah, like dead bodies. So, he says one thing, but actually, when you look at it, he actually also said the opposite. So, I mean, I don't know, you can't have it always.
And also, Richard Dolan was quite taken in by it as well.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a shame for Richard Dolan, and I think he probably really felt the pinch, because I did a really long interview with him before the event. Anyway, he actually gave he did a great presentation at that event. But yeah, obviously, as soon as it broke, then he must have been devastated he had anything to do with it. He was always skeptical. He said it to me on camera multiple occasions, I included it in the film. I did certainly try and make sure that people who, anybody who sees the film really got a real sense of certainly his point of view on it, which was, I'm here to support it because it's controversial, but I'm skeptical, but I think now I remember a few months after something occurred, I think he was in the UK, and I reached out to just connect with him to discuss something, and he didn't reply. So I might be wrong, but my guess is he probably wants nothing to do with anything that reminds him of that.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Fairly recently, he got a little bit involved in the alien autopsy as well, didn't he? He believes that was actually real footage as well.
And
obviously
it's a real shame. I mean, I don't get it, because historically, when I was really deep into the research of all this stuff, not just Roswell, but UFOs in general and the film, I was, I'd always completely, pretty much everything that Rich Dolan would put out, I would absolutely devour it, because, he's got a brain on him. And
he's a brilliant researcher and everything. But
he's a great researcher. But then at the same time, like you say, he can, I suppose anybody's fallible, but he'll come out with this potential belief of something where you can kind of go, hang on a minute, surely you don't believe that.
Yeah.
So, and then it kind of makes you think, okay, I've got to take a stand back with all these researchers, because ultimately they're only human, and just because they're self-proclaimed UFO researchers, which, let's be honest, is what they all are, they're just people who became interested. It doesn't mean to say that they're all necessarily as as balanced and as objective as they might wish to be or they might think they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think from Richard Dolan's point of view on the alien autopsy, I mean, I know you had nothing to do with that or anything, but I think it's probably distance had a lot to do with that. Because obviously, I know Spiros Belarus, who created the alien autopsy, so I knew a lot more about how it was being created and everything. So maybe I think Richard Dolan was under the expectation that there was a Roswell film, and there may well have been, but that wasn't it.
Right,
The film that Spiros made was not the film that Richard Dolan thinks might have been the original,
I mean, I'm sure.
And Spiros even says that. He says there may well have been another film, but that isn't it.
Yeah, that most definitely is not it. I didn't realise you knew the guy.
Oh, Spiros, he's been on the show a couple of times, yeah.
That's fascinating. Well, I actually met with Ray. It's interesting, there was so much going on at the time of this film. I actually met with Ray Santilli around the time, because one of my contacts...
Oh, right, that's interesting.
Yeah, one of my contacts knew him, so I managed to get a sit down with him. And he's an interesting character, I'll put it like that. He did sit there over this long lunch in West London somewhere, and he did absolutely make the point that the film was real, and he would not be. I had no cameras with me, no microphones, just casual conversation. He would not move from the position that his film or that film was real, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Well, it's kind of crazy as well.
Well, it's mental, yeah, but then it's not really, because I guess he made a lot of money out of it.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I don't know if you know, but Spiros, if you're interested, Spiros is going to be doing a presentation in Woodbridge in Suffolk in September, which I'm supposed to be helping out on. It was supposed to have taken place last year, so if you're interested, come and see it.
Oh, David, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love to do that,
Okay.
and I'll probably. Yeah, I might have to bring at least one person down with me who might be interested in that as well. So yeah, that's great.
Oh,
yeah,
I'll keep you in touch with that. And
please do. Yeah.
But I've actually seen the presentation a couple of times, and it's actually brilliant. The way he shows you how he did it and everything, and
excellent.
With all the real little bits and pieces.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. Actually, I've got to do that. That can't be.
Right,
that's it.
Well, I'll make sure you know about that. Okay.
No,
right, so where do we go with this now with your cosmic whistleblowers?
Yeah.
Obviously, when you make a film, was there a lot of film that didn't get into the film, if you see what I mean? Like a lot about outtakes?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. To be honest with you, it took me, how long did it take me to edit with my editor? It probably took me, because we had to get into the Raindance Film Festival, so we were on a deadline. But I remember...
The Raindance, is that the Robert Redford
No, that's the Sundance.
Oh, Sundance,
Festival.
right. Okay.
Raindance is
sorry.
Raindance is probably the biggest independent film festival in the country in the UK.
Right, okay.
It's like Academy Award qualifying festival and all that. So it's kind of a big event.
Yeah.
But so when we were obviously entering that, so I knew that talking about how much ends up on the cutting room floor. I think the edit we did was probably, I want to say 6 weeks, but it probably extended more to 8 weeks. So it was a long edit, so yeah, absolutely tons of stuff. I mean, where do I even start? I mean, the amount of, for a start, it was interesting. I'd had this whole situation where I wanted to do a sit-down interview with Don, and he wouldn't give it me the whole time I was there. And in the end, I'd grabbed this interview with him in the car on my very last few moments in Roswell before I had to fly to Mobile to interview the last witness. And that was a astonishingly eye-opening interview, and just generally very, very, what's the word? Very illuminating, I think, from like, you really got to see the real Don Schmidt. So I would love to have put more of that in the film. Obviously the interviews with the witnesses went on and on for, a good hour each of them, and I probably had them on camera for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I think my favourite one was definitely the ex-military flight engineer who was basically part of the transport team that took the wreckage from Roswell to Wright Pat. he was absolutely my favourite interview because, I mean, first of all, he was there on the day. His own life story actually was crazy. This is a guy that had been in a plane crash over the Pacific. He actually had a picture of the plane in half in the air, one of the bombers, because the picture was taken from the other plane because they were out there in a squadron. He ended up in the Pacific, being caught by the Japanese, being a POW. All this happened before he had anything to do with Roswell. I mean, this guy was just a legend, and a really lovely guy, and his family were just really kind to us.
And lucky to survive by the sound of it.
Oh, it's just incredible. Just the fact that he even got through that was unbelievable. And then to be part of the crew that took Roswell, that took the Roswell debris of whatever that craft was out of Roswell. I mean, it's just an unbelievable life story. So that was a really long interview, and that I would love to have put more of it in that. And then all kinds of other things went on kind of off camera, that you just don't see. I mean, the escapades and the trouble that we had when we first got to Roswell, all the interviews not showing up, Don being elusive. I mean, it just went on and on.
I was sorry for laughing, but just the way you said it, the elusive Don.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes over, doesn't it? You probably get an idea right in the film. He kind of just does his own thing. Yeah. And
no, I think by the end of the film, you can see you're pretty peed off by it.
Oh, I mean, I honestly think, I actually think I was very, I was pretty kind in my edit, because I think a lot of other filmmakers may have edited it and cut it in an entirely different way. But yeah, it certainly didn't. My life wasn't made easy for a while, put it like that.
Now,
but that's fine. That's my job.
So when you visited Roswell, did you get a chance to go around the UFO museum?
Yeah, we did. Funnily enough, we did. Yeah, I mean, we did a couple of the interviews around there. So yeah, I did actually take a look in. In fact, we were there for like probably 2 days, I guess, in and out. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting little. Have you been that way?
I have, yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've stood in front of the aliens with all the smoke coming out of it.
And all that, yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting little thing, isn't it? It's kind of like Blackpool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I'd like to go again, but the trouble is, it's such a to get to Roswell, it's a long drive. We came out of Phoenix, I think it was. It's quite a long. It's a long drive. When we were out there, what was saying about, do you want to go to the actual landing site? Well, I said, well, when you get outside of Phoenix, out to that area where Roswell is, it's a long way out further again. And she didn't like being in the car in the heat and all that. So I said, it's not worth it, because all you're going to see is just, you're not going to see any spaceships or anything. All you're going to see is just a load of open countryside with rocks and rubble.
You're just going to see nothing.
The same as what you see in here.
Yeah. So just get time to stick cosmic whistleblowers on. You can see it. That's all.
You can see what it's like out there. It's just it's barren land, isn't it? It's and where you got lost and everything.
I mean, it is a kind of a sight to see when someone who's not been to that part of the world. I mean, it is. You really get the scale of it, don't you? Out there,
oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's massive. Yeah. And it all looks the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Any direction you pick.
So, with all this extra footage you've got, would you ever contemplate doing an editor's cut with?
Years ago.
Or a director's cut, I should say.
Yeah, director's cut. Sure. No, years ago I did have the idea that I'd probably have to do it, and there's a part of me that still definitely has been thinking of it. The only thing is I'm so terrified, one, at the amount of footage, and two, revisiting that whole thing. It took probably the best part of 3 years of my life to do it, because obviously, again, just coming back to the whole production of it, I mean, obviously it started in Roswell, and then with everything that happened with the slides, and then kind of getting cut out of the picture, and I was kind of on hold for like 12 months. And then I had to go back and finish it, which meant more trips out. We obviously filmed in Washington, D.C. and down to Mexico one. It was a whole chunk of change. So the answer's yes, I have thought of it. Will I do it? Probably is the only answer.
I do hope so.
Yeah. No, I just need, you know what, David, it will happen at some point. I just need to muster myself.
Yeah.
Get the energy, because, when I sit down to that, I know that's going to be a good few months that I'm never going to get.
You can always try to get Don on an interview again for it.
Cosmic Whistleblowers too. Yeah. Somebody actually asked me that very question actually on another podcast a couple of years ago. And at the time, I actually thought, you know what, it wouldn't be a bad idea, the follow-up, but no, I think I'm past that one now.
Are you thinking of doing anything else in that vein, UFO vein?
Oh yeah, no, funnily enough, I started on a picture with Charlie Parrish, who worked with me on Cosmic. I can't go into too much detail because we actually started a couple of years ago. I was out in LA shooting it in Philadelphia about 2.5 years ago. But the idea was this is going to be a much bigger budget and slightly, again, we're in the UFO territory, completely different topic, different witnesses, and kind of the darker side of the subject. But for now, that film is kind of, I wouldn't say it's on hold, but it's currently having to work through some, kind of production challenges before we can get it anywhere. But yeah, well, actually, Charlie's really running that show now as well. It's kind of he's running most of it out of the US. But yeah, so that's something else I'm doing, and I am looking to start another film. It won't be this year, probably be next year now, maybe. But I've just got to decide on which route I'm going to take it. But again, yeah, it's going to be. I mean, I do want to get away from the UFOs, but they just keep pulling me back in, David. They just keep
I know what you mean. Yeah.
What can I do?
Yeah. Well, I think it was about probably a couple of years ago now that I got in touch with you, didn't I? About I put it to you about perhaps doing a story on Colonel Holt.
That's right. Yeah,
but then I think things got kicked about a bit, and the person that I was sort of talking to, he didn't like the idea of bringing somebody else in and all that sort of stuff. It kind of got shuffled aside. But I think it would have been a great project, actually, with Colonel Holt, because he's a very interesting character.
Yeah, I mean, I think even absolutely. And he seemed like a really nice guy as well when I met him. When I saw you as well, whenever that was, a few years ago now. But I think even stories that we all kind of know now fairly well, there's always room. I think there's always room to do things. Certainly more up to date, of course. But I always think there's room to do things differently. With a different pair of eyes, and hopefully you can find ways to improve on how to tell the story, or maybe find things that haven't been told before. So yeah, I do believe that these things are always worth looking at again. And in fact, a collaborator of mine is a screenwriter now, Alberto Lopez. He's a screenwriter, good friend, and we're in talks trying to figure out which direction to go with one or two film ideas at the minute. But his last film, he's, like I say, he's a screenwriter, and he's just finished a run with Billy Zane is actually in the lead of this film. Yeah, I mean, I think it's made out in, I want to say Dubai, possibly, somewhere out that way. But yeah, he's got a big interest in the subject, so we're hoping to get something off the ground. But like anything, like everybody, I suppose we're just, we're reappearing our heads out of the, from behind the parapets after the last 12 months.
Sure, yeah. Okay, right, that question. What do you feel about Roswell yourself?
As in the event?
Yes, as the event. Do you actually, do you believe that it was an alien spaceship that crashed?
I think.
Oh, it's obviously your own personal opinion. It's not.
Yeah. I'm just thinking. It's funny. If you asked me this question 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 2 years ago, I'd probably give you a different answer each time. Which is probably the answer in itself, really.
Well, that's what the airports keep doing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. How many times? 3 times. Yeah. I think it's, in some respects, I think it's more likely than not that based on the evidence that I was witness to in terms of people I've met, witnesses on the ground, all that kind of stuff, I would argue that, yeah, there's certainly a real possibility that was the case. And if it wasn't that, then, my God, that was a really, really big kind of propaganda move.
Yeah.
And hoax. So it was either a really big joke, or a really big cover-up of something, or it was an alien craft. Either way, it was definitely a huge cover-up, and there was definitely lots of lies, and people were threatened. And I've got to say, you know, I believe these people that I met, whether it's Frankie Rowe or the other witnesses that I spent time with, you know, they're really genuine people, and they have no reason to make this stuff up. And I think it's entirely possible. Yeah, I really do.
I mean, they're still very secretive about it, and there's no need to be, is there? You know, if it was a military exercise, I don't believe for 1 minute it was a weather balloon. You know, or the mobile, you know, or the crash test dummies and things like that. You know, I think just that alone, the fact that they changed the story so many times, just makes it all very suspicious. You know. Yeah,
completely. And you know, why lie so often? Why threaten those witnesses? Why lock up Mac Brazel, who found the stuff? Why lock him up for 2 days and not tell anybody where he was? And then why threaten those other people? And then why say that they'd found an actual craft? And and why, when they loaded the stuff onto the plane to take to Wright Pat, why were the pilots and engineers not allowed to see what was on an aircraft that actually dropped the atomic bomb on Japan?
Yeah, that's right.
And with people around on that base that all had top secret clearance. Why not allow those? You know, it just none of it adds up. So something really, really massive happened on some level, no doubt about it.
And as I understand it, when Mac Brazel actually reappeared again, he apparently had a brand new vehicle and he disappeared, didn't he, away from the area.
That's right. I can't remember the disappearing bit. I remember he was given it. He definitely.
Well, I think he was probably just paid.
I
think the story goes that he was paid off and sort of sent on his way, and he went to live somewhere sort of better than where he was living.
Oh yeah, no, he was definitely paid off, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, ended up with a brand new truck and all this stuff. No, he was definitely paid off. So, you know, they definitely wanted to keep him quiet. And yeah, you know, it makes sense.
Better than being bumped off, I suppose. It's.
I'll always take paid off over bumped off, without a doubt. But it's funny, you know, when you think about it, David. Actually, all of these little parts of the story, they just add up to give you the picture that, you know, it makes it look like it was a UFO, doesn't it? Sure. I mean, well, it's just so.
Well, and especially, I mean, you've probably heard the news that's going around now that the military are actually admitting that on a daily basis they see UFOs and things that they can't explain. And apparently there's things coming out. Well, probably as this show goes out, it'll probably be coming out as well, which is all very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Obviously, I keep an eye on it all, and like you say, I mean, it's it's interesting how this, you know how propaganda works, I'm sure, and in terms of when and how they announce these things. So, you know, we're at the end of a global pandemic right now. You know, things come out either during some kind of escalation of tensions or global issue of some kind, and then the news just gets buried, and then they can get away with the fact they say, well, actually, yeah, we said it a few years ago, you know, and it's kind of it's lost. One of the things I forgot to tell you actually on this stuff that didn't go in to the film was I was actually trying to get an interview with Obama's chief of staff, John Podesta, because obviously he'd come out. I mean, I do feature him in the film, that clip when he talks about, you know, they can handle the truth and all that stuff. He was somebody with an interest, there's no doubt about it. Funnily enough, my emails ended up being published in the whole WikiLeaks release.
Oh, really?
All of those emails came out. So that email exchange actually is in those releases. If anybody actually cares to look that up. So I actually went to DC to try and get that interview. I kind of had a direct email and a direct number for him. I mean, I was leaving him voicemails, my contacts out that way. But anyway, in the end, it actually didn't come off. It was kind of, in the end, it just ended up a big kind of, big trail to nothing, really. So, but it was my hope in the film to get somebody governmental to speak to me. And I thought, you know, flashing my old BBC badge around and stuff might have helped, but it didn't do me any favours that day.
Yeah, not nowadays it does, I think.
No, absolutely. And certainly now, I certainly wouldn't be flashing it around anyway now.
Yeah, I wonder if they're building up to the fake alien invasion with all these news reports or something. But
you've got to wonder, haven't you, like the whole.
We'll have to wait for that one.
God, can't wait. Get the cameras at the ready. I mean, it feels like we're building to something, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Well, it has done. I mean, the funny thing is, before all this COVID thing kicked off, a few people kept on saying things about they feel something big is going to happen. And we're all saying, well, we all had this feeling that something big was going to happen, but we didn't know what it was. And of course, that kicked off. So that was the big thing then, wasn't it? So. Yeah,
absolutely. Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah. Anyway, Simon, it's been fantastic having you on the show. And again, if anyone wants to see this film, and I will recommend it. It's Cosmic Whistleblowers. It's on Amazon Prime, if you've got Amazon Prime. And if you haven't got Amazon Prime, it's worth getting it for that. So see, it's got Simon Sharman and his all his glory on the film as the star as well.
Well, not all my glory, but yeah,
well, not all your glory.
You get to see me from time to time.
but
no, I appreciate that, David. Thanks. I mean, I've enjoyed being on. And yeah, the film it's on a whole bunch of channels nowadays. Actually, it started out on Gaia, it went on the airlines, and it's done a few other channels. Didn't get to Netflix, obviously. But yeah, I think Amazon's probably the easiest access for people.
It's I think originally, were you going to release it on DVD originally, or did it not?
Yeah, I did a very small limited run as well. But yeah, I did have a plan to do it, but by the end of it, I was probably mad not to have done more of it, because people were interested.
Yeah. But I think I was one of the ones at the time was asking you about it, and I never knew if it came out on DVD or not in the end.
Ah, right. Yeah, there are a few. There's probably a couple of dozen copies lying around somewhere. Not with me. But yeah, I think by the end of the journey, I was certainly, when you see the film, I guess, or when you remember it, I guess you realise why. I was so exhausted by the end of it. I was like, right, I've got to put this behind me now.
Yeah, it does show. I mean, one last question, if it's not too personal. Yeah. Did you lose a lot of money from it, or did you work out okay in the end?
Oh no, I didn't lose. I didn't lose money in the end. No, not at all. The film, kind of definitely covered its cost and wiped its nose, as they say.
That's
so yeah. So no, thank you for asking. But I mean, obviously, it didn't make me enough money to retire on, or even make the next film. But yeah, it didn't cost me in the end.
It paid its way. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, maybe the money is going to be in the director's edit.
You see, you've got me thinking now, David. Listen, if this happens and I start this, you do realise I will both blame you for it and partly credit you for it. So,
that's
yeah, right. That'll have to happen.
Well, put me credit on the cover. That'd be all right.
It's a done deal.
All right, it's all.
As long as you help me with the edit.
Oh yeah, well I can do that if you like. I'll be fascinated to see some of
it. You say that now. Yeah.
But I mean,
no, okay. Well, you got me thinking on that one.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. Honestly, do. But there's obviously that you're the man that's got to make that decision. But and it's your life, obviously, if it takes so long to do it. But if you do, anyway, come back on the show and tell us about your edit.
I'd absolutely love to. Yeah, you can count on that.
But apart from that, I hope to run into you sometime, and not on the road, obviously. But what I mean is. Bump into you again sometime.
Yeah, please. I actually did get knocked down in 1987.
Oh no,
so
did you?
I don't need to.
Oh, not again. Oh no, yeah. No, I didn't mean it that way. I meant in a friendly way.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm sure we will, and maybe there's stuff going on, whether it's down in Woodbridge.
Yeah, I'll keep you in touch with that as to what's going on. I mean, hopefully it's going to take place this year. I think it's been cancelled 3 times now already. They've had to change the dates because of all the. Everything that's going on, but hopefully it's going to take place this time. But
no, good. Well, yeah, no. Hopefully I'll catch you there at least, and yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. But thanks for having me on, David. No. My pleasure. Hopefully I had something of vague interest.
Oh, absolutely. It's been very interesting. I mean, as I say, I was very interested to get you on anyway, and it's been fascinating, Simon. Thank you for spending the time, sparing the time to come on after our last cock up last week, but.
Honestly, David, any time, and I must tune in and see what your other shows on, who's been on, because I've just been so lackluster recently with listening and watching anything. So I really should check out some of your previous.
Well, this show is.
In fact, I probably should have done that before I came on. Just to make sure.
I think this show is going to be number 118, as I understand it. But I'll send you the link to it all and everything, so you can spread it out amongst your friends.
Good stuff. No, absolutely, of course I will. Absolutely.
Anyway, Simon, I'll say goodnight to you now. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been fantastic.
My pleasure, my friend, and look forward to seeing you again.
You take care of yourself, Simon. Cheers, thank you.
Okay.
Good night. Bye-bye. Right, I'd like to close out the show with Johnny Cobb and Jerry McCoy with their rendition of a tune written by Johnny Cobb and Jerry McCoy called Roswell. So rather than my usual theme tune, I hope you enjoy this. You've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm David Young. Please tune in again next week. Thank you. Hope you enjoy this tune.
Stormy night in New Mexico, 1947. Mac Brazo heard the sky explode. Crash site made his blood run cold. Flying saucer captured on Foster Ranch. Headlines spread like an avalanche. Major Marcel investigates. He knows the truth but not allowed to say. Dawning of a new day had begun. The answer to this mystery is still unknown. Roswell. There's no disc, no aliens. The men in black lay down the law. Keep your mouth shut and walk away. You didn't see what you saw. The story disappeared. Cover-up was locked down. Powers that be closed the case till Stanton Friedman came to town. The secret was exposed, conspiracy unveiled. Disinformation did not prevail. We know we're not alone. We're not the only ones who search the universe and interdimensions. Roswell. Will the question be answered? Will we ever know what really happened in New Mexico? Roswell. Roswell.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.
In principle, it's not ridiculous that that UFOs could be associated with extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial spaceships. In principle.
Then when we got back to Roswell, that's when they told us to keep our mouth shut.
It's people like the skeptics that encourage me, because they're doing the bidding of the puppeteers, the puppet masters, the people who are pulling the strings.
Hillary Clinton, we know, met with Lawrence Rockefeller multiple times, and we've got a proven paper trail linking her as one of the point people on the UFO matter with Lawrence Rockefeller during the Clinton White House years. Now that's a very interesting thing, and one could ask, where was the media in these last 20 years?
John Podesta is not available. Record your message at the tone.
You know, if you're Hillary Clinton about to run a presidential campaign, it seems to me this is an issue that you want to deal with.
Started in China. Oxygen, medical supplies, and hospital staff have one of the 5 vaccines and research.
Stage 1, you create a problem. It could be a manufactured virus. You want a reaction, and you want them to either say, do something, or you want them to accept what the authorities suggest must be done. So one of the agendas is to massively cull the population. They want to reduce the numbers.